Welcome back to On the Edge, Brains. Here, you done jump back on the spot. This is the place, I tell you all the time, where the conversations are pointed, the guests are super sharp, and the responses are never dull. Today, we are continuing with our Women Around the World International Women's Interviews here on the podcast. We are in Sussex, West Sussex? Sussex, I said it correctly.
West Sussex, yeah.
West
You're saying
Sussex.
it right. Yeah.
Exactly. In the UK, United Kingdom, we have had women from Germany, Spain, Israel, Africa, and this is just another exciting interview. I want to introduce Karen Bashford to you. Now, Karen does some very unusual work. Again, I go with the extraordinary, not the ordinary. She's going to talk to us about her coaching and her work with women, primarily women that have been subjected to trauma from their mama. They got mama, drama, trauma, okay? Mama has, for whatever reason, not able to connect, always made their child feel that they were not wanted or they were not worthy, and it happens. If it's post-traumatic stress disorder, if it is just a multitude of things, maybe they didn't want the pregnancy, that happens too, and so all of this rolls over into the relationship with the child. But Karen has worked through it, and she's helping other women work through it. In addition to that, she does a little tarot card reading. So I'm going to have her pull 3 cards for moi at the end of our segment. I want to understand a little bit about the art of tarot card reading. So many people think that it's voodoo and it's hoodoo because of religious doctrines. Well, we're going to get a different perspective. I want you to open your mind. I want you to open your heart and welcome our guest today, Karen Bashford from the UK. Hello, beautiful. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much, April. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. My brains, again, they want to get tuned up. They want to get turned on to what's going on. Tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you do.
Okay, well, I'm psychic and I've been working with women for about 5 years now on sort of clearing issues that they've had. My background is I was a financial advisor and worked for a bank for a considerable number of years, but moved over more to the holistic side after I trained as a hypnotherapy and NLP practitioner. And my work with the inner child come from the fact that some clients didn't want to be hypnotized. They were concerned and worried. So I created the inner child work where you just literally use your own mind to create change. And I've also been a tarot reader for the last 13 years. I've been a tarot reader. As I say, I've been psychic all my life, and it's just an extension. And the cards are absolutely brilliant for giving guidance and sort of support and encouragement, and also very much helping them through challenges, women's challenges that perhaps they don't understand why it's happening. So yeah, it's me in a nutshell, tarot and inner child work.
Okay, so now when you say you're psychic, define that for my brains. What does that mean?
It means I listen to what information is being given to me when I connect to other people. When I say connect, I'm able to tune in to what is really going on for them. So when I say tune in, I can literally sense or feel or hear something that they're not necessarily hearing, and it's just natural. Obviously, if I'm out and about, I don't allow that to happen because I don't want to hear everyone else's issues.
Right. You'd be hearing everything going on, all kind of
Yes.
Okay, so now inner child work. Explain that for us, please.
Right. Well, the inner child work is very much about taking a person back to their childhood, connecting back to their heart, and realizing that everyone has a child within them. And that child has been on the journey with them. That child also knows how to guide them to release the trauma, the pain, and such like they've ever experienced. And in doing that, they're able to release themselves from that pain and start life afresh for themselves, better relationships, more confidence in themselves, and basically just live life as they're supposed to not how they've been doing so because of all the pain and hurt they've experienced.
Mm. Would you share with our audience some of the pain that you experienced that led you to this work?
Well, as a child, I didn't realize, it was only when I was older, that my mother found it very, very hard to tell me she loved me. She's never, ever been able to say the words, I love you, to
Mm.
me, especially if I said to her, I love you. She's never been able to say, oh, I love you. I've always got, and you. And when I started realizing actually it wasn't normal, I started sort of looking into it more as to why it was happening. And my mother's relationship with her own mother was very questionable, in the sense that her mother didn't love her, didn't know how to express love. She was a very self-centered person, didn't like my mother having things for herself. And
Mm.
whilst my mother compensated by spending as much time as possible with us and sort of, showing us her love in other ways, not hearing the words I love you really has an impact, or had an impact on me. But I've worked through that now, and I accept it's not her fault. It's just one of those things that have come down through the generations, unfortunately.
Wow, that's heavy duty. I overdose on "I love you" all day, every day. Uh,
Lucky person
but it is
who
it
hears
is a
that.
and it's very powerful. People don't realize what those three words mean. What does
No.
the words "I love you" mean to you?
To me, it's an expression of how somebody is feeling. There is this genuine love for me. Um, it's funny, it sounds really silly, but I get love from my cat. And
Mm.
it's that feeling that it gives you. And if somebody says to me, I love you, if my girlfriends say to me, I love you, or anything like that, it's a feeling it gives internally
Mhm.
that makes you feel safe and secure. And
Right.
yeah, I feel that through my girlfriends. I feel that through the cat that I have, who gives me love in her way. But I also know that even though my mother can't physically say the words, her actions express love for me.
Now, did her actions, were they contradictory? I mean, was there any sort of other abuse or trauma? Was there, physical abuse? Was there abandonment? It was just those three words, "I love you," and the connection between those three words
Yeah,
that she was unable to produce.
yeah,
You know,
definitely.
love to
Yeah,
me
no,
shows a strength. It shows a vulnerability. It
yeah.
shows an ability to give. It shows a bandwidth. It shows you willing to challenge, willing to die for, a sacrifice. So the words "I love you" really, really hold a lot of weight. So how did that
Mm.
impact you growing up?
Um,
How did that how did that translate into your relationships? And I don't know, do you have children?
no, I don't, but that's maybe partly because I realize that to love a child, you have to understand love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand what love was. It's taken me a long time to actually get to the point where I can look in the mirror and say to myself, I love me. I love me, or I love you, looking in the mirror. And that gives that sense of belonging and sense of, inner confidence. As a child, I didn't realize that was missing. So my relationships, I was very much a loner because I didn't know how to really connect with people and other children, because without realizing it, how how our mother relates to us has an impact on how we relate to other people.
Oh yeah.
And as a child, we don't know that. We don't know any difference. So because my mother was unable to, she demonstrated love in a way that obviously she looked after me and such. For what a lot of women, that doesn't happen. Even they don't get that looked after. They,
Right.
they don't sort of have the food on the table, or the clean clothes, or anything like that. I didn't have any issues with that. I just didn't hear my mother say, "I love you." And because I didn't have that connection in the same way as other children did, I didn't know how to connect with them. So I become quite a lonely child, and that obviously carried through into adulthood. There's times when even now I find that if I meet somebody new, I'm still quite, oh, I've got to get to know you first kind of feeling to it.
Right, right. Well, and I understand that, but the word love can also be a form of control and power. You see people that are abusive or narcissistic, and they say, well, I love you. And I love you because it holds a sense of power and control. So we have to be careful with that. My mother doesn't apologize. Okay, my mother doesn't say I'm sorry. That doesn't mean that she's not remorseful for things that she's done or she says, but she looks at people's truest intentions from the onset. And it bothered me for a long time too. And I was like, how come you don't apologize? She says, because I'm not sorry. I understand what I'm going to do. I will make adjustments moving forward. I'll take note of what you're saying. But the words I am sorry are empty and shallow. I mean, how do you shoot someone's child in a mass killing, and then you turn around and say, oh, I'm sorry for that? Or you've embezzled $100,000 and you say, I'm sorry for that. So the words I'm sorry and the words I love you both have a lot of weight. Now, I work with a lot of women, and I know that this is hard for women to translate because we are the nurturers and we are the givers of life. What are some of the things that you help break down in your clients that you work with to been able to enable them to build themselves back up?
Okay, well, a prime example is for a lot of women, not being good enough is one of the prime examples that they will carry with them from a relationship with a mother. So if the mother doesn't ever give them any kind of encouragement or sort of says to them, oh, you're doing well, or you can do anything you want, but always criticizing and blaming them, they are definitely going to feel that they're not good enough. That has an impact on every aspect of their life, whether it's money, whether it's relationships. It can even have an impact on their health, because if you keep saying to yourself, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve, why should I have this? And often I find with my clients that they carry the mother's voice in their head. So everything they do, mum's voice comes up and says, oh, you can't do that, or you're no good, and all the rest of it. That has an impact on them as a person. With working with me, they are able to release the voice in their head, but also they discover, because their inner child is able to say to them, well, actually, I love you, you're special to me. It frees them from the actual pain of the mother relationship, and then enables them to go on and change their lives totally. They have better relationships. They can let go of people that aren't serving them because they're aware that they don't need them anymore. It's not necessary to have them in their lives.
Right.
As I say, they can go on and make more money. Money is an energy. And if you have a low energy within yourself, you won't ever bring money to you because you're repelling it without even realizing you are.
Wow.
So in raising your own energy by recognizing that actually you are lovable and loved, even if it's only your inner child that's loving you, it makes such a big difference to your energetic vibration and what you're putting out to the world. So you bring better relationships into yourself, you bring loving relationships, you bring more money to yourself, your health improves, and just generally life gets so much better.
Is this inner child suppressed in our subconscious mind our entire life? Everything people always say is stemmed from your childhood. Were you bullied as a child? Were you abandoned as a child? Were you happy as a child? I just thank God over and over again that I had a wonderful stepfather that never did no trickery and tried to do anything but love me and support me and encourage me. I had a wonderful mother. She had her challenges growing up. She was 14, 15 years old when she had her first child, but that never hindered her relationship with us. I have an amazing husband. I've never been sexually assaulted. So I am coming from a different perspective, but I'm so open to hearing everyone else's challenges and trying to help them work through that. But this inner child suppression, does that carry with us our entire life?
Yes, unless you realize that your inner child needs to be safe and secure. If you've had the kind of relationship with your mother and others around you that's made you feel safe and secure as a child, then you're not likely to have so many issues. You can have issues, obviously, because it depends what else is told
Oh
to
yeah, I
you
got some.
later
Nah,
on your
I got some issues.
experiences. Yeah,
I got some issues.
yeah,
Yeah, them ain't
yeah.
them, but I got some issues.
Yeah. So you have that situation, but basically the inner child needs to feel safe and secure. To feel safe and secure, that child, even in the womb, needs to have felt that love from mother,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where the relationship starts, from the moment of conception, if
Right.
not previously, because we carry through the generations events that have happened in through generation, and the mother is carrying that knowledge, and that is passed on through the womb. And if the child in the womb does not feel loved by the mother, maybe it's the mother's in a situation where she doesn't feel safe herself,
Right.
that will impact the child.
Mm, mm, mm.
So if she and the mother's in an abusive relationship for herself, and you often find that a woman that's been in an abusive relationship in the home is often in an abusive relationship in a loving or supposedly loving relationship as well, because we don't stop the problem just because we moved away from mother. We've carried that problem within us, which is why, as I say, the inner child has to feel safe and secure.
Right. Because I had a family member, she's passed on now. She would hit her stomach. She would say ugly things. She would, take things to try to abort the baby. And the child came out extremely damaged. He was ADHD, schizophrenic, has been in and out of incarceration. And again, it was from the womb. And so that really, what you said is very, very powerful. And I'm hoping that if there's anyone out there that's watching this right now, that you're experiencing, pain and anger, and you've been a subject to abuse, please reach out and get some help. Please get
Definitely.
so this does not continue from generation to generation and go on. So now you're working with this group. Do you work individually or do you work in group settings? How does your coaching work?
My coaching is actually one-to-one, simply because it's such a personal issue, because everyone is so individual. I am looking to set up groups, but I'm trying to figure out the best way to serve all the women that would be involved. So I'm more inclined to say that I do one-to-ones, but then there would be a group that they could come to and sort of share their stories if they wish to, or get some advice and support, to move forward from having healed from the trauma of the mother, and the situation where sometimes they are healed, but then what do I do? I do continue coaching them on a one-to-one basis once we've cleared the trauma, but often they don't necessarily need that deep level work. They can then go into a group perhaps, so that they get support that way.
Right. Now, is this a lot of talk therapy? But like you said, some of it is hypnotherapy. Some people are willing to go down for the hypnotherapy.
I do hypnotize, but it's not with the inner child work. You don't need to. You what you don't realize is your mind is more than capable of creating change without being hypnotized. Whilst I'm a hypnotherapist, I don't feel that I have the right to put suggestions into somebody's mind.
Okay.
So what I do is, I've discovered that with the inner child work, if you come back to your heart and connect with your inner child, you're capable of making changes for yourself. I'm the guide that takes you on that journey to discover what the inner child needs, releases what she needs, and puts in place new instructions that you choose, not what I choose, but what you choose. And in doing that, you actually free yourself of the past.
Okay. All
Quite
right.
challenging.
Well, there's some people here in the United States that I clearly know that have mommy issues. You can tell, and this is men, that how they treat women, how they talk to women, how they honor women, how they are monogamous or lack of monogamy in relationships. You can really tell mommy issues
Mm,
that have surfaced. And these are people, very high profile people here in the United States. And it spills over into every aspect of their life. They almost become narcissistic. They
mm,
become numb to other people's feelings. Do you find that in
yes,
men as well?
yeah. I do work with men, definitely work with men. And yes, they do have big issues around the mother. They can experience as much damage from the mother or the lack of love from the mother as a woman can. It's just that I chose to work with women because they are the ones that support the next generation far more than men.
Right.
And I know that working with these women, I stop the story continuing through the generations because they teach their children differently. They deal with their children differently because what often happens if they've experienced abuse in some shape or form, they will try and do the opposite and overlove. And
Uh-huh.
that's just as damaging as underloving.
Right.
So I know that working with women, I can change the story. But the thing about it, as I mentioned earlier, with the it's a generational, so it's carried through the generation. As I said, it starts in the womb with the story from the previous generation. By changing the woman and how she views herself and how she loves herself, it stops the story then. So it doesn't just impact her and her children, but it can impact the whole generation of the family going forward as well.
Wow. Let me ask you, how does this roll over into intimacy with a partner? You know?
Well, as we well know, if you don't love yourself, you'll tolerate a lot of things that perhaps you wouldn't do so because you have no boundaries in place. You're not capable of saying no. If it steps beyond what you're prepared to accept within your own, authenticity. Yes. Oh, my brain's gone slightly dead.
That's
Um,
okay. Take your time, honey. You on the edge.
yeah, yeah, precisely. I'm on the edge. But basically, because we don't love ourselves, we forget that we're entitled to say, respect me.
Right. Right.
Don't do that.
Right.
And unfortunately, when it comes to intimate matters and an intimate relationship, a woman that's been abused by her mother does not know how to set those boundaries.
Right. She doesn't have a template. She's never had anyone to give her that kind of instruction. I get it.
No,
I totally get it.
yeah.
So now, teach us. We want to jump into the next thing. We want to talk
Okay.
about tarot and tarot card reading. Give us just a little
Okay.
snippet of the history of that and how you got involved.
Okay, well, the history is supposedly there's several versions, but from what I understand of it, they actually come from Egypt when the Romans were sacking Egypt. They took the knowledge from the temples and wrote them in sort of cards,
Mm-hmm.
in drawings rather than actual words. They did drawings, and that was what was the information within the temples, the
A big,
scripts and
we
such
got a
like.
big thumb. Move your thumb over just a little bit
Oh,
because we
sorry,
keep
darling. That's that.
blocking your face. There you
Yeah.
go.
Okay. Yeah. So basically that information that has been in the temples and had been written down on the scrolls and such, because Rome was sacking the temples and such, rather than try and get the scrolls out because they would be stopped, they actually drew pictures and passed them on to the gypsies. And the gypsies would take them out of the cities and transport them to places of safety. That's where the tarot, as far as I'm concerned, started.
Mm-hmm.
So you have these images that basically were, the story of what had happened previously. And it went on from there. I become involved simply because, being psychic, I would often sort of want to read somebody, but it's in a loud environment. It's very hard to actually read somebody and get the real sort of message coming through. I also found that people like something visual.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they can look at a card, and I'll give you a prime example. Let's just pull one card and sort of show you what, let's find a nice one for you. Let's find a really nice one. Look, this is a lovely one. So this is the world.
Okay.
And as you can see, it's a really, really pretty card, but it has a lot of information on it. You can see there's a sword, there's an actual fire wand, you've got a circular coin down here, and you've got a cup. But there's a couple in the middle, and they're in a circle of a snake. And that is very much, you know, you bring everything together and your world becomes completed. That's just one aspect of what that card can mean. There's a lot of meanings, and they say there's 7 meanings behind every card. I would say, if you really read the cards and you trust your psychic abilities, the cards can say whatever they need to say.
How do you learn the interpretation of the cards? Is that
you look at them?
So, I mean, is there a, for the lack of a better term, is there a course? Is there a teaching? How do you look at a card and determine it? That's what I'm trying to say. Each card has its own definition.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you the first time that I had a card reading. And yes, brains, I've had them done because I'm curious and I want to know. And I take notes and I want to see if this comes to fruition, okay? Because this is ancient history and there's nothing new under the sun. So judge me if you want to, okay? But one of my coworkers, the first time I had it done, we were on our break and she had this book and she had these cards. And I was like, you know what? My religious doctrine has always said, you don't mess with that. You don't touch that. That's bad. So she says, well, okay, let me show you how this works. So we pulled a few cards and she went through this book that she had and it had a definition for each card. Karen scared me to death. Baby, what she told me came to fruition within about 3 or 4 days. And it was amazing. It was magical. And she read from a book. I mean, this wasn't something from her mind. So people like you that have studied long term, do you find that as you progress and you become more intuitive, that you gain more insight to these cards and to the reading of the people?
To learn the cards, I would suggest that you actually have personal one-to-one training or in a group training, because you learn them quicker, you learn to trust your instincts better. Yes, you can buy the cards and you can get the books and they're good, but they can be a bit overpowering. You know, you've got to constantly read the meanings, and that means you're not necessarily trusting your own intuition and what you're being told, because where tarots are concerned, basically you just receive to give. So in picking the 3 cards you did, that was what you needed to hear. So in actually reading the message to you, it was the appropriate message. But where tarot are concerned, if you allow yourself to just look at the card and see where your eye is drawn, and then just allow the message to come through, and it is very much about trusting your own intuition and accepting the message you're receiving, because everyone is capable of being psychic. Nobody is not psychic. It's just that as children, we are told that, you know, what we see and what we feel and what we often hear is our imagination. So we shut down our ability to be psychic.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna come from the other perspective too. There's a lot of gypsies out there, charlatans, snakes, people that will try to get you all caught up in this. Oh, okay, well, you know, give me a piece of your jewelry. Well, the only way that we can get this spell off of you is if we give $1,000. And again, brains, use your brain, okay? You know when somebody is trying to bamboozle you. You know when somebody's trying to trick you. You know what your life trajectory looks like. You know the people that are, if you know that somebody's already a snake, You don't need the cards to validate that. You can shake that off. So there's a balance there. This is like I wouldn't call it entertainment, but it's like reading your horoscope. There is energy in there. There is a way to predetermine. Now, I can't say that, someone like Karen says, oh, you're going to be healed from this disease or this, that, and the other. Continue to see your doctor and do what you do, but also raise your frequency and trust to know that there's a higher source that is guiding us through this wisdom. So I am going to get a couple cards read for me. I told Karen, I said, you know what? I just turned 57. Yes, I know, 57. The other day. And so now she's going to go ahead and do 3 cards for me and give me some insight. Now, if it's too juicy, like I'm going to win the lottery and all that, I don't want y'all clamoring my airwaves, but she's going to give me some insight. So Karen, please pull 3 cards for me.
Okay. Well, you've got the 6 of Wands, which is very much about success and achievements. It's being recognized for who you are and how powerful you are is what I'm getting from this. And for me, this is very much indicating that I'm feeling you're raising your game. You're actually taking things to the next level. You're not being complacent and thinking, okay, I've got to here. And this is as far as I want to go. There is very much an element of actually, no, I've not even got halfway there yet. I've got more to do and I'm going to be going for it. And there's people, I would say there's quite a few people in the background supporting you and encouraging you. And actually, I would say they could potentially be the ones that take you that much higher as well on that card. So that's the 6 of Wands. Sorry, it's probably the wrong way round. But
no, it looks good. I can see it. I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's,
so that's the 6 of Wands.
My brain.
And then,
it's my brain.
Yeah.
Helping me.
And then you've got the Ace of Wands. Now, the Ace of Wands is about you've done your journey to this point. You've started the next stage, and the next stage is going to be very, very powerful. It feels as though you're actually lighting that energy and really pushing forward now. And if you look at the card, you've actually got the world in your hand. So I would say you're going to be going even bigger than you already are, and actually going very much worldwide. And it's also going to be an element of, I want to say it's not just in the studio on the radio. I feel it's outside as well. It's actually being seen outside and doing things for yourself externally, not just on the, internally on the radio, but actually being seen externally. But it's in such a way that is going to raise the game totally for you.
Wow.
And then we got the 3 of Swords. Now, this feels, and most people look at it and think, oh, I'm going to be brokenhearted or something like that, because obviously it shows 2 people putting the, swords in somebody's heart when they're laying down. But that's not what I'm feeling for you. I'm feeling this is very much about recognizing that you've come a long way, and in coming a long way, you've actually had to deal with a lot of pain and hurt that perhaps you don't share with people, that is hidden very much. I think people think that because you're sitting in front of a video and talking and such like that, you haven't got issues. When in fact, sometimes I feel that for you, sitting there in front of the screen can be a bit of an issue at times. You've had to push yourself to be this person who's literally, I'm sitting here, I'm interviewing somebody, or I'm talking live and whatever, but there's a bit of you that says, this is really scary still. That's what I'm feeling for you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
You're absolutely right with that, because the haters come out, and people always want to be you. Don't try to be me. Do you. You. Let me help you, encourage you to shine the light on who you are, because this is not easy. People think, oh, okay, you put yourself out there, you run a risk with that. You got the world watching you. People don't think about that. They think, oh, okay, this is vanity. No, this is work, brains. Okay.
And it's
interviewing
hard
people.
work.
It is hard work.
Yeah.
Bringing interesting topics, put a bullseye on your back. These people are very vulnerable. Karen is talking about her personal experiences, getting them to open up. Don't you think that Oprah and Ellen are still scared too? Absolutely. This is not easy work, but that was great because I'm looking forward to that. There is something that is coming up for me that is going to catapult to the next level. And yes, I am a little bit nervous. And yes, I will be in front of a bunch of people. And yes, I do love my brains. And yes, I have been successful. And thank you so much. This has been so enlightening. Please tell my brains how to get in contact with you. I know that you have a global presence, that we can definitely contact you on the World Wide Web. They can call you on the phone. If they're in West Sussex, they need to stop by.
Oh, yeah, it'd be lovely to see them. But yes, you can connect with me through my website, karenbashford.com. You can come to me on Facebook as the Manifesting Lady, and also my own personal page of Karen Bashford. I'm also available on a mobile number if they're happy to phone that, or WhatsApp, and the number is 07818 096 673.
And I'm going to go ahead and reiterate that information in writing on our website. Please, brains, I need you to go and check out the videos. It's great to listen to it audio, and I love when you download because we've got some crazy, crazy numbers with the downloads. But I want you to also be able to enjoy people visually. They take the time, they set the time aside, beautiful backdrops to let you know who they are and to meet them, to engage with them, to touch them on a very personal level. So go and look at some of the videos. You're going to get a whole different perspective. We are killing it on YouTube. I just started uploading stuff on YouTube. So help me raise those numbers. You can find me on Spotify, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes. The list goes on and on. Karen, you have been just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And thank you. And I love you. If nobody told you today, baby, I'm telling you. And I mean it
Oh,
from the
thank
depths of my
you.
soul.
Oh,
From the
that's
depths of my
lovely.
soul.
Thank you so, so much, April. And I've
Okay?
loved being on this show with you. It's been phenomenal. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and be sure to come back for other edgy conversations.
Mhm.
We might do something really interesting. I may have our palm reader, and have you do some tarot, and have another hypnotherapist. I will have you psyched up and psyched out, brains. Okay, just
It
come on
sounds
to
good.
the edge. All right, and then of course we gonna have a religious balance too, because I know that God is omnipresent in every modality and in everything that we do. Thank you so much for being on the edge, okay?
Thank you.
All
You
right.
take care now. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.